Hey everyone, welcome back. For this video, I'm going to be doing a Kiki's delivery service inspired cake for my very first client. This is the rough sketch. So the client's wife is made to look like Kiki riding a broom with her two cats that are modeled after Gigi. If you haven't seen the movie, you should definitely check it out now. It's very lighthearted and sweet. These are all the modeling chocolate colors I bought to make the design happen. I have to tell you now, I didn't record every single step of making this cake because honestly, it was a really stressful experience and I was just trying to survive. Part of my stress was using new materials and techniques, including using this new cake-friendly wire I bought. It's off of Amazon. It's by Wilton. I was really happy with it and glad to not be poisoning any customers. I also had to create my own modeling chocolate colors using extra food dye because the range of modeling chocolate, like the candy melts that you can buy at a store, although pretty expansive, didn't include any in-between shades I wanted, such as gray or peach or skin tone. I'm going to be using that food dye with this giant glob of white chocolate I made as a base. So this is that diagram again. You can't read it, but I have all of my many colors listed according to each part of the design. Fingers crossed. This was a very long and sticky process. Sometimes you don't realize how many colors a picture has until you really break it down. But here I am, slowly beginning to mix my white modeling chocolate with different food dyes to get those colors I had mentioned previously. Warning, do not use regular armature wire as it may be toxic to the cake. This was that Wilton brand I had mentioned earlier. It's wire that's wrapped in paper so it becomes entirely food safe. I wanted to start with the Kiki character because she was probably the most intimidating part of the cake itself. I shaped the wire as best as I could so she would look like a witch riding a broom. And I have to say, I've never made a human figure before, let alone one that's based off of an anime movie. There was a lot of trial and error with trying to mold the modeling chocolate when it was too warm in my hand because that means it can't really hold its shape. It's really important to let the chocolate cool so it's easier to work with, otherwise it's way too goopy. I actually spent a lot of time doing different versions of her face and her body that I eventually tossed. This was probably version 2 out of like 4 that I did. There was so much sweat, but I have to say I'm really proud that I didn't cry because I just kind of crazy laughed the pain away and then run to my husband for comfort and sweet words. Same goes for the cats. I thought they'd be easier, but I also had to test out a few versions of it, and I'm so glad I did because I was a lot happier with the outcome or my second attempt. Yeah, much better than what I had before. This is the final Kiki head I managed to land on, and I was also using a bit of chocolate to practice her facial features. The head looks really simple and almost looks like nothing, but it might as well have been the idol from Indiana Jones at this point. Once I had all the toughest parts, in my opinion, done, I pretty much breezed through the rest of the sculpted details of the cake, including like her broom, her radio, as well as some seagulls to really round out the theme. Then came making the actual cake, which was supposed to be the easiest step, right? Well, the client had asked for a strawberry chiffon cake. I've never made chiffon sponge, so I was kind of nervous to sell it to someone when this was my first time actually making it, but I thought, why the hell not? If you don't know what chiffon is, it's a very light and airy sponge and tastes really good with whipped cream or like a big cup of dark coffee. It's kind of like angel food or a castetta cake. I'm saying that with a super Korean accent because I'm just copying what my mom told me. Now, knowing that it's like angel food or castetta, that should have been my first red flag. But I kept blindly mixing the ingredients without a worry. The recipe asks you to whip egg whites into a meringue because that's what creates that really lighter than air, fluffy texture. I'm speeding through this in the video, but I do have to mention that I worked really slowly and meticulously because honestly, I'm still figuring this whole baking thing out. This cake wasn't very difficult to make, especially for a novice or a beginner baker like me. There's just a lot of extra steps compared to, say, making a cake out of a box. And what did it result in? Absolutely delicious sponge that might as well just melt in your mouth, that in no way will it support multiple heavy chocolate figures. See that give? So back to the basics. Told the client, sorry, we're gonna have to go with a good old-fashioned white sponge. Thankfully, he was okay with it. I eliminated the oil completely from the recipe just to make sure that the cake sponge was as hard as a brick and wouldn't crumble if you threw the damn thing. I also have to mention, this does not really affect the cake. It's more about texture, and I actually kind of like it. It kind of reminds me of pound cake because of how firm it is. I still did little fancy finesses like lightly soaking it in sugar syrup and perfectly leveling it off like a pro for once, and then slowly and carefully began assembly. Starting with the buttercream and then chopped up strawberries that I meticulously placed and then quickly removed in favor of bigger pieces of strawberry. I thought bigger pieces were best considering how thick the actual cake was. This also took some maneuvering and testing out and redoing, just like every single freaking step of this cake. But I was pretty proud of it. Sprinkled it with lemon zest because that always gives it that extra zing that's so fun to eat. Globbed on more buttercream, making sure to carefully fill in the crevices between each strawberry. Strawberries are not in season because it is winter. I do believe they are a summer fruit. So I was okay with being a little heavy-handed on the sugary frosting. Topped it with the rest of the sponge and then crumb coated the little beauty. It really does feel like I'm spackling, like using a caulking gun to really smooth out the edges. It's a very satisfying part of the whole process, especially when the base of the cake is right. After it had chilled, I went in with a very light blue buttercream as the main frosting for the cake. I was going for a look where Kiki looked like she was flying through the sky because boy, do I love a challenge apparently. So the cake itself would look like the actual sky, and then Kiki and her cats would be flying amongst the clouds on top of the cake. The clouds themselves I would be shaping out of Rice Krispie treats that I also forgot to record. A lot of stressful steps were skipped because I just kept forgetting, especially during my frenzy of making sure that the design was getting pulled off. But here are all the figures together, and this is also when I started to finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. I began placing all the little cloud details, the seagulls, the dirigible, which is kind of a big part of the movie. If you haven't seen it, again, this is your second reminder to please go and watch this very lighthearted and sweet movie, just to really hammer in the theme that this is all taking place in the sky. And here it is. This little guy had to be my favorite part of the whole cake. The final step, packing it all up and praying that it doesn't fall apart. This was a very happy moment for me. I seriously felt like Frodo after he tossed that one ring plus Gollum into Mount Doom. It was finally done and over with, and I was pretty happy with it. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed watching me make that Kiki's Delivery Service cake. Although it was based on someone specific, it was definitely Kiki inspired. I think I'm gonna take a break from cute cakes. I'm actually pretty burnt out by it, which is weird because I love buying cute things. Like, I was really into Sanrio for way too long. Still, when I see like cute stationery, pens, stickers, plushies, I always tend to gravitate towards them. But when it comes to actually making art, whether it's through drawing or painting or sculpting, I usually get more satisfaction and contentment from making things that are monstrous and ugly and demonic. And there's just something, I guess it's kind of like a purge that I'm having when I do these projects. And then when I do cute things, I get really burnt out. I think having to do tiny little cutesy details just drives me crazy. Not to say that I'm not proud of the result. I am very much proud of what I pulled off because I had a lot of doubt and insecurities about it. But I am ready to go back to creepy, and I am ready to get things ugly again. So I'm pretty excited to show you. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. I will promise, as always, to be more consistent about showing you guys more videos. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and see you next time. Bye.